It was a warm, sunny day in March 2009 when 8-year-old Sandra Cantu was seen on surveillance video happily skipping through her neighborhood in Orchard Estates Mobile Home Park in Tracy, California. Sandra had just arrived home from school when she decided to go to her friend's trailer a few doors down to play until dinner time. Unfortunately, this friend was not home. Sandra started skipping back towards her own trailer when something off camera caught her eye. Sandra passed her own trailer and kept walking down the road. This was the last time Sandra was seen alive. I'm Allie, and this is True Crime from my couch. Sandra Renee Cantu was born on March 8, 2001, to Maria Chavez and Daniel Cantu. Maria and Daniel were divorced, and there was an ongoing dispute between them about child support payments. Because of this, Daniel was not around his children very often. Sandra lived in the Orchard Estates Mobile Home Park with her mother, siblings, and maternal grandparents. Sandra was an outgoing, bubbly second grader at Melville S. Jacobson Elementary School in Tracy, California. She loved to garden with her grandparents, help her mom cook, and was extremely friendly. The Orchard Estates Mobile Home Park had a community pool, park, and basketball court, and was considered to be very safe, according to the park's manager. Because of this, Sandra's mother, Maria, allowed her children to play outside with friends without supervision, as long as they followed 2 rules. 1, stay on the mobile home park property, and 2, be home in time for dinner. Sandra always followed these rules. Friday, March 27, 2009, was a normal day for Sandra. She attended school, and when she got back to the Orchard Estate Mobile Home Park, she headed straight to her friend's house to play. Around 4 p.m., she went home to check in with her mother and grandparents and dropped off her backpack. Then she told her family that she was going to go play at a different friend's house down the road until dinner time. This is the last time her family would see her alive. A few hours pass, and at around 7 p.m., Maria is finished cooking dinner and notices that Sandra is not home yet. This is unusual because, like I said, Sandra always follows the 2 rules, not to leave the park and to be home for dinner. Maria starts searching the mobile home park, shouting for Sandra, asking neighbors and friends if they have seen her little girl, but no one has. Maria can't shake the feeling that something terrible has happened, so she calls 911 at 7:53 p.m. to report her daughter missing. Around the same time Maria is calling 911, a neighbor from a few doors down texts her about suspicious happenings around the trailer park around the same time that Sandra went missing. The text says, "Tell the police I had something stolen today around 4 p.m. I don't know if that makes a difference or not." The neighbor, a woman named Melissa, said that she struggled with whether or not to bring it up, but she couldn't shake the fact that the 2 events had something to do with one another. Melissa had also contacted the park's manager around 4 p.m. to let her know that her $200 Eddie Bauer suitcase had been stolen from her front yard. Police respond immediately to Maria's 911 call about her missing daughter, Sandra. They start searching the family's trailer in the surrounding area and question Maria and the rest of the family. They also ask for a recent picture of Sandra and ask what she was wearing when she went missing. Upon questioning the family, investigators learn that Sandra's grandfather recently installed a video surveillance camera on the porch overlooking the house and the ramp leading to the entryway. The family immediately turn over the footage and it is quickly analyzed. Sandra appears on video, leaving in the direction of her friend's house like she had said she was going to do. A few minutes later, though, Sandra is seen on camera again, this time coming back towards her own trailer. It was later discovered that the friend she had wanted to play with wasn't home. As Sandra is skipping happily back towards her home, something off camera catches her eye, and she walks past her own trailer and out of frame. Investigators wondered what caught Sandra's attention. Was she still somewhere in the mobile home park? Investigators start looking into Daniel Cantu, Sandra's father, because of the divorce and child support disputes. However, the family adamantly denies it could be Daniel. He hadn't been involved or seen the children for a few years, and Maria said it was not in his nature to do something like kidnap one of their children. After investigating further, police determined Daniel was not in Tracy, California that weekend, and that he had a solid alibi. The local police department, FBI, and National Center for Missing and Exploited Children were all involved in the search for Sandra. There were divers searching local lakes, as well as searches on foot and horseback. All in all, there are 230 professional search and rescue volunteers, representing 16 government and emergency entities looking for Sandra for the next 48 hours. Between donations from local businesses and private citizens, the reward for information leading to the discovery of Sandra grows from $2,000 to $30,000. The day after she went missing, Sandra's family held a candlelight vigil for the community to come together and remember the beautiful little girl. At this vigil, a woman, who was described as agitated and crying excessively to the point of hyperventilation, flagged down an FBI agent giving him a handwritten letter that she said she found regarding Sandra. The letter said, "Cantu locked in stolen suitcase, thrown in water on Boschetti Road and Whitehall Road. Witness." Police investigate this letter but determine that it is more than likely a ploy from this woman to get attention, and don't believe it to be credible information pertaining to the case. The FBI put together a profile of the offender. They believe the offender was most likely a white male between the ages of 25 to 40 with a history of sexual assault or child sex abuse material. One man in the mobile home park lined up with this profile, so investigators started looking into him. This man was a known pedophile, and investigators learned that he had a history with Sandra. 2 years prior to her disappearance, in the summer of 2007, Sandra and her family were swimming at the community swimming pool when a man who appeared to be in his 60s approached Sandra. Her mother went on to tell investigators that he touched Sandra's face and kissed her on the mouth. Police brought the man in for questioning and confronted him with the knowledge of this incident. The man admitted to the incident, calling it harmless affection, and confessed that he had an attraction to little girls around the ages of 9 to 10 years old. Investigators believe he might be the person that took Sandra, but after more digging, they find that he had a credible alibi and he is let go. Investigators are back to square one, wondering where Sandra went. On April 6, 2009, a local man named Jose Luis Franco was performing a routine draining of an irrigation pond near Orchard Estates Mobile Home Park. The irrigation pond was on private property and had not been searched by police. Franco discovered a black Eddie Bauer suitcase floating in the water. He told investigators that the suitcase smelled bad and seemed suspicious, and that he was aware of the missing girl, so he called immediately. Shortly after, investigators released that they have found the body of Sandra Cantu zipped inside of this suitcase. Toxicology reports reveal that Sandra had alprazolam, the generic form of Xanax, in her system, despite the fact that she was never prescribed these medications, and according to her mother, had never taken it. The report also revealed that Sandra had been viciously assaulted, with extensive injuries. She had a cut to her lower inner lip, an abrasion on her left elbow, traumatic injuries to her external genitalia, and she had been sexually assaulted. A bloody piece of cloth fashioned into a makeshift noose was found tied around Sandra's neck. The medical examiner determined Sandra's cause of death to be homicidal asphyxiation. With the discovery of the suitcase in Sandra's body, police had a new suspect, a woman who kept inserting herself into the case and had mentioned a black Eddie Bauer suitcase a few times to a few different people. Police went to show the suitcase to the woman named Melissa Huckabee for identification, but she was not home. They discovered that she had checked herself into the hospital, claiming she had accidentally ingested an X-Acto knife blade while sleepwalking. Melissa had been closely following the case on the news while in the hospital. When police showed Melissa the suitcase to identify it, she said, "It kind of looks like it," and also said, "Man, it kind of looks like I had something to do with it." Melissa Huckabee lived a few doors down from Sandra's house with her 5-year-old daughter and grandparents. Her grandfather was the pastor at Culver Road Baptist Church, where Melissa volunteered as a Sunday school teacher. Melissa had studied criminology at school and had worked as an event planner and grocery store checker. At the time of Sandra's disappearance, Melissa was unemployed, raising her 5-year-old daughter with the help of her grandparents. Melissa had a significant mental health history, including bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and borderline personality disorder. She had been prescribed alprazolam, better known as Xanax, and Adderall, as well as paroxetine, an antidepressant and anti-anxiety agent. Digging deeper into Melissa's life, investigators speak with her boyfriend, Daniel Plowman. He told police about an incident that happened just weeks before Sandra disappeared. Daniel claimed he went to church with Melissa where she gave him a drink. He thought it tasted odd, but Melissa encouraged him to drink it, so he did. The next thing he knew, he woke up in jail. Police arrested him for DUI after they found him passed out inside his car, in the driver's seat, in a McDonald's drive-thru. Daniel believed that Melissa had drugged him, but had no explanation as to why. Months before Sandra goes missing, another local woman accused Melissa of kidnapping and drugging her daughter. This woman was also a resident in the Orchard Estates mobile home park, where she was a neighbor of Melissa. The woman reported to police that her daughter had come home from Melissa's trailer acting loopy and drugged. She claimed her daughter had not been given permission to be at Melissa's trailer. Investigators do not pursue this accusation. It turns out the mother had an active substance abuse issue, and when they went to talk to Melissa, she refused to say anything to police. Police said without any evidence of a crime, and with the mother not being credible, they could do nothing with the information. 3 months later, Sandra goes missing. With all other possible suspects cleared and the mounting evidence against her, authorities put all of their focus on Melissa. Investigators decide to go back to Sandra's grandfather's surveillance video. They see Melissa drive by 8 minutes after Sandra is last seen on the video, going out of the mobile home park towards her grandfather's church. Investigators do more digging and find that as Melissa was leaving the mobile home park, she called the manager to report her black suitcase stolen in front of her trailer, the same suitcase Sandra was later found dead in. Melissa now realizes she is a suspect and starts to open up to investigators. She claims Sandra visited her trailer the day that she went missing. She told investigators that her 5-year-old daughter and Sandra were best friends, so it would not be unusual for Sandra to be at her house. This is the first time anyone had heard of this encounter. She goes on to say that she was outside loading the suitcase into her car to take to church when Sandra walked by and wanted to play. Melissa claims she suggested a game of hide-and-seek with Sandra and her 5-year-old daughter, and that she suggested Sandra get inside the suitcase, then jump out to scare the 5-year-old. Melissa said Sandra agreed and excitedly climbed into the suitcase, and Melissa zipped it up. After zipping the suitcase, Melissa claimed she had to go inside the house to get her phone, and that during that trip inside, she forgot Sandra was inside of the suitcase. When she arrived at her grandfather's church, she remembered and unzipped the suitcase where she found Sandra's lifeless body. Melissa said she tried to do CPR and that she put a small wet towel on Sandra's forehead to cool her off, but that nothing was working. She said she was freaking out and didn't know what to do, and that her head was spinning out of control and she wasn't thinking straight. In her panic, she said that she decided to drop the suitcase in a pond. Another surveillance video from the church shows Melissa driving away from the church 85 minutes after surveillance sees her leaving the mobile home park. Then it catches her returning to the church 30 minutes later. In that 30-minute window, between 5:30 and 6 p.m., a retired Marine and his wife, who owned the property that the irrigation pond was on, ran into Melissa and her SUV at the irrigation pond where Sandra's body was later found. They asked Melissa if everything was all right, and they said that she seemed frazzled and nervous, and she told them that she had stopped on the side of the road to urinate, but then quickly took off and left, heading back towards the church. After leaving the church the final time, Melissa stopped at McDonald's for dinner before arriving home for the rest of the night. The prosecution's summary of the case does not support Melissa's story at all. Melissa claimed that she had told Sandra to get into the suitcase, which Sandra did willingly, and that she had forgotten that she was in there. Then she claims that she found her lifeless body at the church. However, records show Melissa calling the manager of the mobile home park about her stolen suitcase at the same time she would have been driving to the church to drop off the suitcase. Additionally, there was no way Sandra would have been able to willingly go into the suitcase for a game of hide and seek. It was said that her body was so contorted in the suitcase, she would have had to have been deceased or unconscious to be able to fit inside. Investigators go to the church where Melissa works, where they find a rolling pin with a bent handle and a smudge of blood. After testing the DNA, it was confirmed to be Sandra's. In one of the classrooms of the church, there were window blinds that were missing their cord. This cord was found by the FBI to be consistent with the cord tying the suitcase shut. Also, a prescription bottle of alprazolam was found in Melissa's purse. Melissa was charged with 1 count of murder with special circumstances of rape with a foreign object, lewd conduct with a child under the age of 14, and murder in the course of kidnapping. The special circumstances meant that if convicted, Melissa could have faced the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. Melissa pled guilty to first-degree murder and kidnapping with enhancements. However, the sexual assault charge was dropped as part of the plea deal she made with prosecutors to avoid the death penalty. Melissa was sentenced to 25 years to life without the possibility of parole. Melissa still denies the sexual assault of Sandra Cantu. She asked Sandra's mother for forgiveness, saying, "She did not suffer, and I did not sexually molest her. I am asking you, Maria, for your forgiveness. I can't imagine forgiving someone who harmed my daughter. I hope someday you can forgive me." She also apologized to Sandra's family, saying, "I shouldn't have taken her from you. I owe you an explanation, but I still cannot explain why I did what I did. This is a question I will struggle with for the rest of my life." Sandra was only 8 years old when her life was so tragically and senselessly taken away from her, and I hope that her family can at least find some peace in knowing that the person that did this to her is put away for the rest of her life. Thank you so much for listening to True Crime from My Couch. My name is Allie. I hope that you have a great day, and I will leave all of my social media links down below, and if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe. I'll see you next week. Bye.